Hi, I'm Rebecca Morrison, and we are back for day 2, Cisco Live Shorts, our third interview of the day with Tanner Bechtel. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so I have a cheat sheet of notes
Acronyms.
here for acronyms. I was actually going to say it almost sounds like a list of band names for people who aren't
cool.
in the business. Automation/orchestration, Cisco FSO, Thousand Eyes, App Dynamics, and AI Ops.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so tell us what AI Ops is, because I feel
Sure.
like that's kind of the umbrella for all
It
the other
is.
band names on here.
It is it's the lead band.
Yes.
It's the headliner.
Headliner. Mm-hmm.
So AI Ops is fundamentally artificial intelligence-driven IT operations, right? It's a discipline. It's not a tool. It's not something you buy. It's essentially the approach that an organization takes to solving bigger observability problems. So a lot of those other names that you had on that list, like App Dynamics, Thousand Eyes, FSO, they're pieces of that puzzle, but what we at Worldwide do is really stitch that together. So if you're a customer, in many cases, a lot of our enterprise companies have dozens of observability tools. You know, you've heard people talk about single pane of glass, like they want all their data in one place, they want to see everything. Ultimately they do, but what they want to do is solve problems with it. So if you take those tools and then you look at what is it really doing for the business, you know, how do I take a business objective and translate that through what we buy and how we execute and the architecture we use. AI Ops is that discipline. It's the people, process, technology trifecta. And so our team takes tools like Thousand Eyes, AppD, and instruments that in an environment that allows them to do that. And one of the things that Cisco's done is really worked with us a ton over the last few years. And they've introduced this year FSO, which is full stack observability, right? And what that essentially does is it takes a lot of those core tools, App Dynamics, Thousand Eyes, Intersight, and pulls them together in one platform. So we don't have to integrate them manually. They're pre-built. It's almost like a prefabricated core component structure for us to reach and establish an AI Ops environment for our customers. So now that I've said that really long answer,
I feel like you've given that answer before.
I have given that answer before.
Well, what do you tell your neighbor when they say, what do you do? What do you do, Tanner? What's your job?
I tell them, I don't know what the hell I would tell my neighbors. Sorry about that. But ultimately, if I was explaining what is AI Ops, like what is this? It's the isolation of high-value decision-making.
Okay.
That's it, right? Like there's so much noise happening in a big enterprise. There's so much data. There's so much to put on a screen to see the health of your applications and your data center and your network. AI Ops is simply isolating high-value decision-making. I talk about it like if you ever been to a Cheesecake Factory, you get the menu, it's like spiral bound. There's 650 things in there. They're all probably good. There are some in there that are probably not good, but you don't know that because there's no context. So what AI Ops does, what we do, is really narrow that down to only the stuff you need to see. I'm not going to order a cake, you know, a birthday cake. I'm just going to order lunch. So narrowing those decisions down and then ultimately automating them, right? Automating them so we're not decreasing the amount of time an application is out or something is in downtime. We're eliminating it. We're using AI and machine learning to eliminate it or forecast it and automate the process.
Gotcha. I think.
I don't know.
Listen, AI Ops is your area of expertise.
Yes, ma'am.
Asking questions is mine. Okay, so
Ask all you want.
tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you find yourself being this AI Ops expert?
I always like to say there's an equal balance between being technically capable and also being unaware of what can and cannot be done, right? I think some of the best innovations have come from people that had just barely enough context to believe that something was possible and ask questions like, why aren't we doing this? You know, why don't we do it this way? So a little bit about me. I started as a software developer. That was my trade, right?
Okay.
And so I've lived on the other side of our customers. I know what it feels like when you know, your application goes down and everybody sits around a table or they sit on a phone call or they, you know, there used to be those star-shaped polycoms that everybody would talk on and try and figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, who's doing what went down, what went wrong, and solving that problem is terrifying. There's an indicator called MTTI,
okay.
mean time to identify.
Okay.
So, you know, how long does it take to find the problem? And we always joke that it's mean time to innocence. It's like, you got to know fast
Yeah.
whether or not it was your fault or somebody else's. So I've done that most of my life. I've spent a lot of time integrating old data into new applications and kind of going through all the work of tying things together. That's been the root of what I've done. And so I came to Worldwide about 5 years ago to really start around APM, or application performance monitoring. App Dynamics is the tool that fills that spot. What we learned, though, is that App Dynamics was a means to an end for a lot of customers, but they wanted to learn more. They wanted more answers. They wanted to be able to do more and tie more stuff together. And so about 2.5 years ago, we started to essentially integrate all those tools, essentially pre-FSO, start to pull that data together and say, okay, what if we took App Dynamics and we were able to bring not just application data, but network data and pull those together? Would they tell us a better story? Would they, what if we pull cloud information and security data together? Do we get a better picture? And once we started getting that data together, we realized that we needed to correlate it, create fingerprints. How do we start doing that? And so what organically grew was this architecture, a reference architecture that we built in the ATC.
Our Advanced Technology Center.
Our Advanced Technology Center, there in St. Louis, and it gave us kind of this fertile ground to actually build what I'd always needed, as an engineer, as an application owner. And so that just continued to grow, and I'm lucky enough to have had a lot of extremely intelligent, talented people, both on my team and in other teams in Worldwide, to turn that into a reality where now we are actually delivering AI Ops for customers, which was a vision, an idea 2 or 3 years ago. It's very much a reality now.
That's kind of cool.
It's very cool. It's cool to like 8 people, but it's really cool,
Well,
right?
listen, I'm one of them, so I'm very excited by that. That's really neat. Okay, so AI Ops, it's your jam. I keep going back to these music.
It is my jam.
Cisco Live, what are you seeing, feeling, learning about here around your work with AI Ops that you feel like can benefit not only yourself, but your coworkers and ultimately our clients?
One, people.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've been back for a long time. But I've been to a few of these, and the thing that strikes me most about this Cisco Live is the focus on cloud native, really the focus on integration, interoperability, a lot of the things that drive us and my own team, all of these things that we're chasing. I'm starting to really see those reflected in not just Cisco's offerings, their platforms, what their focus is on, like their keynote this morning was simplify. There's nobody in the room who doesn't want all of this stuff to be simplified, right? So to say it is one thing, to actually see it, App Dynamics went through an evolution where they're now completely cloud native. That changes the game for a lot of stuff. We're seeing a lot of our other partners come together. A lot of times you come to events like this, and even Cisco Lives in the past, where the only common denominator sometimes is Cisco in the middle, but you've got all kinds of different partners and different organizations. What I'm seeing now is it's much more of a spider web. They partner with this platform, and this other partner we have partners with them, and they all tie back into FSO. It's a much more interoperable environment. It's like we finally started to listen to not just the technical requirements of our customers, but we elevated that to we're now looking at the business objectives and how do we solve those at scale and solve them as an ecosystem. I heard that in the keynote too, which I thought was really good. We operate in ecosystems together. We're not independent silos. Networking doesn't get to exist on its own without security and without applications. So it's nice to actually see that play out on the trade show floor and in the events themselves.
Yeah, speaking of the trade show floor, I was having trouble getting those 3 words out. Our booth is hopping. There's lots of challenge labs and
it's fabulous.
Colleagues there discussing all things tech. What's been your experience in the booth thus far?
Overwhelmed. It's been a very busy junction, right? It's right there. I always love our booth. It's easy to find us. It's like my North Star. When I'm looking around, I can always see our Worldwide ring. But the one thing that I have noticed is that there is an extreme amount of excitement. I think part of it is that people are together. I forget how much we get done face to face. But the other part of it too is that I think we are dialed in. You know what I mean? I feel like we have our messaging and our business and our focus and strategy, we have rotated over these last 2 or 3 years to being really service-driven. You know, how do you drive value? It's not just about selling hardware and making it work and connecting pieces, but it's how do you start to drive actual business value through automation and through our own ecosystem, tying all the things we do together. And I'm seeing that, but my gosh, it's been fantastic. I love the challenge labs. We've had a ton of engagement at all levels. Conversations, people over there furiously pounding away at the keyboard in the labs.
Yeah.
But it's been great. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy seeing it.
Yeah, there's definitely a buzz down there. So we have the challenge labs in the booth, but those aren't the only labs. No, that we offer.
Speaking of labs.
There's a ton
Yes.
on www.com,
Yes.
our platform. Tell me about any labs that might come to mind for you related to AIOps or FSO or Thousand Eyes or all of the above.
I'll even tie it into Cisco Live.
Oh.
We'll make this one big round
Fantastic.
circuitous story. Okay, so one of the things that we do, AIOps has always been this, not as much anymore, it used to be a big vision, right? And so when we first started down this path, when I first determined like, you know what, I'm gonna move beyond APM and we're gonna start focusing on all this stuff. I went to every exhibit, every organization that had AIOps like in their offering or their title. This is 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I guess. And the first thing I asked is, can I see it? Can you show me what you guys are doing? And they'd be like, well, we've got this printed handout, you know, or we've got these PowerPoint slides. And I'd be like, no, I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to look at it. And I want to break it. And nobody had it. And so I went home from Cisco Live. I mean, obviously it was very nascent at the time and everybody was trying to figure it out. But I went home, and because we do have the ATC, I sat down with, at the time, my ATC architect, my lead architect, and a couple other people, and I said, I want to build this. I just want to make it. I want to show people the real thing. And so Worldwide is extremely good at that. So in the ATC on wwt.com, we have virtualized what we do in that ATC so that it's viewable and engageable on the platform. So we exploit that, right? We have built an entire AIOps environment that lives on the platform. There's all kinds of secondary labs. You know, we talk about integration between AppD and Thousand Eyes. We talk about integration of, or, you know, FSO into the AIOps architecture. We don't just talk about it, we show it, and you can go look at it, and you can play with it, and you can see what a day in the life of a P1 incident looks like, because you can make it work. So
Those P1 incidents.
Hey,
day in and day
people
out,
who
that's
know
my...
what a P1 incident is know exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't know what it is.
Priority 1 incidents. Like
Okay.
when bad stuff happens, you know,
That sounds
majorly
bad.
bad stuff
Yeah,
happens.
okay.
Yeah, but those labs are the way we do it. It allows us to let people explore it and work through it and see it for themselves and do what we couldn't do, you know, a couple years ago, which is really prove it to yourself.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking, and I'm listening, taking in most of it. I mean, it's pretty technical.
It's going to be a quiz at the end.
Oh gosh, I'm not going to. You're making a new world happen, Tanner.
We're making a new world happen, folks.
But really, I mean, you're saying like what you're working
Absolutely.
on now, 5 years ago was sort of like a thing, but not
an idea.
totally. So that's
It does
cool.
fit. I mean, it is a legitimate tagline. But
So that's what you can tell your neighbor. I make a new world happen.
yeah, he's really
all
good.
day.
He's going to be like, all right, man.
Sure,
Good luck with that.
Okay, well, as we're wrapping up, and again, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate your explanations, because I do actually feel like I have a better understanding.
Good.
I'm probably not ready to join your team, but I feel
we'll
like I have a better Is there anything that we didn't discuss here that you feel is important for our viewers to know, whether it's about Cisco Live, whether it's about our partnership with Cisco, Thousand Eyes?
Yeah.
You tell me.
That it is ever changing.
Yeah.
You know, that is, I think a lot of people, especially customers in this space, look at it all again. You know, a lot of people, we have conversations with folks, we'll talk about stuff, Cisco tools, and be like, oh, we tried that 3 years ago and it wasn't for us. I'm like, 3 years ago in this industry is a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, so just do yourself a favor and look at it again, you know, kind of really review this technology, because there are some things that remain. They don't change very fast. Anything inside of FSO, anything inside of, you know, AppD's evolution, completely revolutionized what they've been doing over the last year in their source code. Thousand Eyes is got predictive, forecasted outage artificial intelligence built into it now. And so I would just urge people to look at it again, kind of stand back and take it all in. People that are here at Cisco Live are seeing it, but if you're not, if you're watching it remotely and in this space, I just say go to wwt.com, look at the platform, look up AI Ops on our platform. We point to a lot of those things, but then keep track of it. You can register on the platform and you can subscribe to individual interest areas and categories. And we release material, everything we learn and everything we work on and build and test, we typically publish right on the heels of that. So we are constantly throwing out what we have learned and what we've worked on, and the faster we can bring the education and knowledge of all of our customers and our partners up with us, the proverbial high tide floats all boats. So stay with it, subscribe to the platform, and keep track of this stuff and just give it a new look because it changes very, very fast.
I think you said that very well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you all for tuning in today for day 2 of our Cisco Live Shorts. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks.